So just now going to go forward and give a couple of examples of how culture has been used or understood practically and applied to African liberation fights. We're going to start with Omwale Malcolm X and the foundation of the OAAU, the Organization of Afro-American Unity. Okay, on the day that Omwale Malcolm X was assassinated, he was scheduled to be delivering the charter, the aims and objectives of the Organization of Afro-American Unity as developed by the leadership of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. And so this is just an excerpt, from those aims and objectives. He says, "We assert that we Afro-Americans have the right to direct and control our lives, our history, and our future, rather than to have our destinies determined by American racists. We are determined to rediscover our true African culture, which was crushed and hidden for over 400 years in order to enslave us and keep us enslaved today." Emphasizing the fact now that for the leading members of the OAAU at the time, they understood and saw that the destruction and separation of the African from African culture was a key factor in the oppression of African people. And therefore, we as Afro-Americans, enslaved, oppressed, and denied by a society that proclaims itself the citadel of democracy, are determined to rediscover our history, to promote the talents that are suppressed by our racist enslavers, renew the culture that was crushed by a slave government, and thereby to again become a free people. Again, we see the affirmation now and the assertion, the reclamation, the renewal of our culture as one of the key components for developing our freedom. Yes. Just as a point, we want to just shout out some names here. Obviously, Omwale Malcolm X, but we should not forget other leading members. I'm going to call on two, which are Ella Collins, who was Omwale Malcolm X's big sister, who actually took over the leadership of the OAAU when he was assassinated, and a powerful, powerful African woman that we need to know more about. And I strongly recommend the reading of a book which she started but was actually completed by her son. Seventh Child. Powerful, powerful African woman, and that book is a must read as well. And also the name Baba John Henrik Clarke, the illustrious Baba John Henrik Clarke, our great illustrious historian, who actually penned these words. So the leadership of the OAAU met, consulted, and decided what the platform was going to be. But the actual final draft was actually penned by and written by Baba John Henrik Clarke. These important facts of history that we need to know. All right. Second, we're going to move on to the life and legacy of Amilcar Cabral, the revolutionary leader of Guinea-Bissau. And this is a speech, an excerpt from a speech that is entitled "National Liberation and Culture." It was delivered in 1970, and Baba Amilcar Cabral was celebrating the life of a recently assassinated revolutionary leader by the name of Eduardo Mondlane. He was the leader of the Mozambique Liberation Front, also known as Frelimo, before Samora Machel ascended to that leadership role. And so in 1970, Eduardo Mondlane was assassinated by the Portuguese in 1969. And so in 1970, this African from another part of the African continent is speaking at a celebration in memoriam of Eduardo Mondlane, and delivered this message called National Liberation and Culture. And I would urge everybody to get the book Unity in Struggle, which is a collection of speeches and writings of Amilcar Cabral, because this speech in full can be found in there, or just simply Google Amilcar Cabral, National Liberation and Culture, because this is one of the most comprehensive statements that I have come across, in relation to culture and how it relates to a revolutionary fight and liberation fight. Okay? All right. He says, when Goebbels, of the brain behind Nazi propaganda, heard culture being discussed, he brought his revolver. For those who are unaware, revolver is a term for a gun. All right, I'm just clarifying that because That terminology might be old school for some people, okay? That shows that the Nazis, who were and are the most tragic expression of imperialism and of its thirst for domination, even if they were all degenerates like Hitler, had a clear idea of the value of culture as a factor of resistance to foreign domination. All right? Okay. Goes on. History teaches us that in certain circumstances, it is very easy for the foreigner to impose his domination on a people. But it also teaches us that whatever may be the material aspects of this domination, it can be maintained only by the permanent, organized repression of the cultural life of the people concerned. Implantation of foreign domination can be assured definitively only by the physical liquidation of a significant part of the dominated population. In fact, to take up arms to dominate a people, above all, is to take up arms to destroy or at least neutralize, to paralyze its cultural life. For as long as there continues to exist a part of these people retaining their own cultural life, foreign domination cannot be sure of its perpetuation. At any moment, depending on internal and external factors determining the evolution of the society in question, cultural resistance, indestructible, may take on new forms, political, economic, armed, in order to fully contest foreign domination. And you can see the spelling of Amilcar Cabral there, National Liberation and Culture. If you Google that, you'll find this speech in full. But I do once again encourage to get the book Unity and Struggle if it's still in print. And just taking the words of this master teacher. Yeah. So he got, and I said, this is one of the most comprehensive documents, yeah, in terms of the role that culture plays in a liberation fight. But essentially, what he's saying here is not just that culture plays a role. He is saying that culture is the key component in both the oppression of a people and the liberation of said people. That the oppression of a people is essentially, yeah, the suppression and repression, the neutralization of the culture of that people. Yes. And the liberation of a people is essentially the extent to which that people is able to reassert and live by their own culture. Yeah. Culture is essential to oppression and liberation. Effectively, he has come to the same conclusion that the US organization came to when they said that the key crisis in Black life is the culture crisis, the crisis of views and values. This Baba, revolutionary leader on the African continent, has come to the same conclusion. In the speech, he will go on to talk about the fact that the culture is the key agent of production. Yeah. In other words, what a people produce and how a people produce is always the result of their culture. And so the oppression of a people is effectively on the economic level, disallowing them, destroying the institutions, yeah, of the society that allow the people to produce for themselves in their own interest. And the key defining factor within that is culture. Why? For all of the reasons that Mama Rimba Annie just explained in terms of how culture organizes the people, how culture focuses the people's, orientates the people's minds, and develops certain signs and symbols for people to respond to, how culture organizes the people's identity. Yes. So what is, and organizes the axiology. It teaches the people what is valuable within the culture. Okay. And so essentially, oppression is therefore changing the values of the people. We once used to look at our own ancestors, for example, for spiritual, moral, and ethical guidance. Now they've given us a book, yes, and told us that these figures in this book are the key guides for moral and ethical behavior, and therefore they've decentered, yeah, our focus from our own ancestors and got us to worship, in effect, their own ancestors. Therefore, they economically benefit from that. Therefore, they politically benefit from that, so on and so forth. Yeah? There's so much more that can be said even in that, but we're going to go forward, kings and queens, all right?